Hello all, welcome back to New Chapters. My name is Sarah, and if this is your first time joining me, I just want to say thank you for stopping by for this chapter of my life. I'm a hobby hopper, so if this isn't the content you usually watch me for, I hope you enjoy this hobby as well and will stick around for today's video. Today we're going to be doing another WIP&Chat. WIP, W-I-P, stands for work in progress. My work in progress right now is this diamond painting kit. Feel free to grab your own project to work alongside me, or you can also just treat this as a podcast and listen to me chat while you do other things. The kit I'm working on is still from Enabler's Outpost. There we go. This is their Winter Girl kit. It is a Shutterstock image. It is no longer available on their website, but I'll link to their website down below and you can check out the kits that they do have on their website right now. In terms of tools, I have my Diamond Art Club diamond painting pin here. On the one side, there's just the standard brass tip, and then on the other side, I have the Diamond Art Club steel single placer tip. There we go. Man, my words are not going well today. And I have a clear hair tie keeping it secured in place, and then I have micro glue dots in the tip there for placing things if I need them. I also have this pair of Dreamer Designs tweezers off to the side. These are just the standard tweezers that come in the Dreamer Designs kits. I also have my Firefly Diamond Art diamond painting tray here. It has multiple bases that are interchangeable, so that has this one, which is just the standard grid lines. It also has one that is designed for single placing and one that's designed for multi-placing. This is their element tray. There we go. And then I have my Elizabeth Ward tray kitted up over on the side that has all of my diamonds in place. And yeah, today I'm hoping to kind of more or less rush through this. I'm on a little bit of a time crunch at this point in time for filming, so hopefully I have enough time to get through this. I'm hoping to stay around 30 minutes, maybe even a little bit shorter today if I can. We'll see if I can keep myself from rambling on. We all know that is a challenge, so we'll see how it goes. I might have to pause and restart at some point, but I already have my section sectioned off. I'm partway done with this section. So while I'm kind of picking out my first symbol here, I'll ask you guys my typical first question, which is just how are you guys doing? Let me know in the comments below what's been going on in your lives, anything good, bad, otherwise. I'd love to hear about it and offer any sort of support I can for the good or for the bad. I appreciate you guys being here and being support for me, so I'd love to be support for you as well in any sort of online way that I can. Obviously, it's not the same as having somebody right there with you, but sometimes you just need somebody who can say, yep, I've been there, or I understand, or all those sorts of things. So, today, have some updates on some different things. So, it's a little bit of an exciting WIP&Chat, hopefully, even though hopefully it'll be a little bit of a shorter WIP&Chat at the same time. Biggest thing is I'm not going to say that, sorry, not biggest thing. First thing that I wanted to say is that I do finally have, I think, finally all of the stuff that I wanted to have unpacked. Yay. It's only been, as I said last week, 7 months since we moved in, so it's about dang time that I have everything unpacked. But I was able to get my partner to build my final bookshelf that I needed to replace a bookshelf that got broken in our move. So he built that for me over the weekend, and I was able to put all of my books up on their bookshelves. And I'm so excited. I will try to add a picture here of what they look like. I love having my books arranged in like a rainbow order. It's very aesthetically pleasing to me. I like it a lot that way. But I've been feeling like it was harder for me. I mean, I don't know, it's a give and a take, right? Because like I'd started to learn the colors of the spines of the books that I was looking for, but it is easier to find a book if it's like based on something, related to the book. So at times I've sometimes alphabetized by title, but right now they're all alphabetized by author's last name. And then if I have multiple books by an author, then I didn't alphabetize them, then I ordered them by rainbow. So you can probably see in there a couple of places where perhaps I have a lot of books by one author because there's little mini rainbows throughout my bookshelf with the books that are by the same author. So finally got that done. I'm very happy about it, very excited about it. Although now I have them all up again, and I'm like, oh man, another one of those hobbies that I have just purchased way too many things for. It's like, gosh, I am never gonna read all of these books, especially since I'm checking out 14 books at a time now from my library. So the fact that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get through all those books, plus I'm gonna read some of the books from my own bookshelf, like, we're lying to ourselves here. I'm aware of this. I know that I am not ever gonna get through all those books. And at some point, I'll probably end up finally just saying, you know what, I don't actually need to have 3 bookshelves worth of books. Well, and that's not even really true. I have like 4 bookshelves worth of books. My fourth one is my kids' books, or like, middle grade and younger age stuff that I still have from when I was a kid. And like I was kind of doing like a mental math check the other day on them, and I was like, well, I've read on average like 2 to 4 books off of each shelf, which like I mean it was more than I expected honestly when I started that little counting project, but was still like compared to the 20 books per shelf, certainly have not read nearly enough from my collection here. And again, but then I still am finding new books that I don't own to be checking out from the library. So I should really focus on reading the books on my actual shelf. Um, if I have purchased them, I might as well get my money's worth out of them by reading them at least once, right? Um, but on the flip side, I'm glad that I'm now using the library when I want to get new books instead of buying 14 books, because that was also me at one point in time, which is how I've ended up with so many books. It's a lot better for me to go grab an armful of books from the library for free than it is for me to go grab an armful of books from any place that I have to pay money to go to go read them. It's a little bit of a con with the library, obviously. If again, I've always considered myself to be a slow reader, so sometimes I have a love-hate relationship with the library when I have to return something before I'm done reading it. Um, but yeah, I think it's better to be using the library if I'm going to get books versus hoarding books and not actually reading them and spending a couple $100s on buying a whole bunch of books at any given time. So again, give and a take, but I'll take the library right now and my stash of books, and hopefully I can feel inspired now that they're actually out and in my eye of sight again to read some books off of my bookshelf again and not exclusively rely on the library for what I'm picking up to read. But that is my first thing. Then the biggest thing that has happened this week is I had my interview for my previous job. So on Tuesday, I went in and I had my interview. It lasted for about an hour, which is what I was expecting it to last. I am fairly certain that they did not change any of the interview questions since I last interviewed with them 3 years ago at this point. Obviously, because I have worked there before, they added in some extra questions as we were going along. And, we're kind of like, well, if we hired you back, what's to say you weren't to leave again, or that you weren't going to have the same issue that you had last time that, kind of led you to want to leave and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how it actually panned out in the end. But I was expecting them to ask questions like that. I figured it would be kind of dumb of them not to ask me some questions like that, and just to hire me back. Plus, I mean, I think as much as I want a job, need a job, etc., I mean, I think it's important too that, it's still a good fit for me at that agency. And I think it is, but I don't know. It was kind of one of those, we're both sort of feeling each other out again to see if we still feel like we're good fits for each other. And they wanted to make sure I still seem like a good fit for them. So I will say I was encouraged by the fact that when I brought up wanting to have kind of an alternate, unconventional work hour, like work schedule, they did not bat too many eyes about it, which, they didn't say, yes, you can have this schedule, but they also didn't say, like, no, you can't, or we're not doing that anymore, or any of those sorts of negative things. So, hopefully that means that they're at least willing to let me have some flexibility in my schedule still, which I had when I was there originally, which is part of, I mean, that was kind of how I sold it to some extent, was like, well, this is what my schedule was before I quit. So there is a precedent that it is possible. So hopefully you guys will let me do something kind of crazy with my hours again so that, I can be a better employee and a better officer for our clients, and honestly better for myself and my coworkers. But we'll see. I haven't heard anything back yet. Um, if I was immediately just going to get it based on my interview, I would have kind of honestly expected to have heard from them already this week. But haven't heard anything quite yet. Supposedly, rumor around the office was that I was the only person they actually scheduled an interview for, but I don't know if I was the only person scheduled for that day, or if maybe other people got scheduled and they just scheduled them in a different like way than they scheduled me so that nobody else would really know what was going on, since obviously people at the office do know who I am. And I mean, probably like all offices, there's definitely the occasional gossip mill that goes around, so they maybe would have expected there to be talk about me wanting to come back, or me having an interview and all that. So I don't know if maybe they kept any other interviews just kind of hush hush from the people who are possibly or typically involved in that process. Um, but then again, maybe I was the only person they interviewed, and I don't know if them not calling me back yet means that they decided to go ahead and interview a couple more people in addition to me because they didn't like my answers, or the director of the program was not involved in my panel interview. It was just my supervisors, and then my old supervisors, and then a supervisor from a related department that wasn't actually a part of our agency that I was applying for. So I don't know if it's something that like the director has to review and also give his 2 cents, or decide if he wants to do a second interview with me, which is what happened last time. Was I had my first panel interview, and then I had a one-on-one interview with the director. There's a new director now, but I don't know what his opinion's going to be. And when I asked specifically, like, hey, like last time this was a 2 interview process, are you expecting that to be the same for this time? They were very vague and were like, we don't know yet. I was like, okay, I guess that's fine. Like, I would have anticipated you had some idea as to whether this would be a 2-step process or a one and done or whatever. But I'm like, I'll let you guys do what you guys got to do to decide if you want to bring me back or not. But that ended up being kind of a long day. As I said, the interview itself was about an hour, which I anticipated. But then my mom was like, well, if you're in town, we should get lunch. So she's already decided that, if I am to get this position, that she's committing me to one day a month. We're gonna have to get lunch together. And I was like, okay, that's fine. We can work that out. Um, but yeah, so I went and had lunch with her. So we were gone for about an hour having lunch there. And then I unexpectedly got a call from my friend who I is the one I've been talking to kind of on our late night chats and all of that. But she was calling to see how my interview had gone. And she called to tell me too. She was like, hey, so I was standing by the front desk when someone from the county that you applied to called and asked specifically for our supervisor at the job her and I shared, um, and was like, hey, is the supervisor around to do a reference check for this other county that's calling? And the boss was like, well, who would be calling from that county to talk to me? And my friend was like, well, probably for Sarah. Like, I know who it probably is. So I guess she told her that it was probably for me. And she was like, I don't know if she ever called the person back, but man, she was like, they called like 2 or 3 times while we were in a meeting trying to get in touch with the supervisor at my most recent jail position. And so I thought that was kind of funny. So that's why she was following up, because she was like, well, they were certainly trying to get a reference for you on the day of my interview. So I was like, well, I guess that's a good sign. I was like, I don't know. I was like, my interview was at like 11:30, and she was like, well, they would have been calling about 11, so I don't know if they ever got the information they needed from our supervisor. And I was like, I don't know. But I thought that was kind of funny, and she, as I said, was just checking in on the interview and then updating on her life and all of her situations and all that. So we chatted for, gosh, probably a good hour and a half to 2 hours at least. So we had a lot of things that we chit chatted about, and it was just kind of funny because by the end of the day, I was like, man, I've probably talked for a good 4+ hours with people today. I was like, I'm kind of tired. When again, I haven't been going to work and stuff again. It's like when I'm sitting at home by myself, it's like chatting with you guys sometimes is the most interaction I'm getting in terms of verbally talking to somebody for the week. I mean, I call my mom, and when my friend and I talk, we talk for, typically about an hour on each of those calls. But man, 4 hours in one day was kind of a lot for my voice. I probably am a little hoarse and scratchy. I don't know if you'll be able to hear. I can certainly feel my voice being a little hoarse and scratchy this week. But yeah, so I had that interview, had all those interactions with people. I did talk about it in my interview, but I was like, honestly, I was like, I used to have, and I mean, I'm sure I still have a little bit of it, but I was like, I used to really struggle with like imposter syndrome because I mean, when I first started, I was like 23, 24, working in, this environment where it was like, you're supposed to be telling other people how to live their lives and be good adults and like blah, blah, whatever, as like a probation officer. At least that's the way I viewed it. And I was like, man, how am I at 24 supposed to be telling people how to live their life or like having this judgment that like your life is not, you know, not what the society says it should be. And so I always felt kind of weird when I was like helping people, twice my age or even older than that, try to figure out, better things for life. And at this point, I've just kind of realized now that my own life has kind of gone off the rails just a tiny bit, it's like, nobody actually knows what they're doing. Like, I don't think anybody ever gets everything figured out. Like, we're all just out here trying our best. Like, I'm not any better than you are. We're just all flailing around hoping we can find something that, isn't harmful to ourselves or others, trying to get through the world. At least that's my current new perspective. So I'm like, it helps alleviate a little bit of that imposter syndrome because I'm like, we're all imposters. Nobody knows what we're doing in life. Like when you think you got your stuff together, something's going to come out of left field and smack you right across the face and say, nope, you are not actually having it all together today. Um, and I hadn't really had that experience yet when I was at my other right when I was at this job the first time. So like I don't know. I think in my head I was like, oh man, I'm doing so much better at life than all these other people. But like, no, I wasn't. I was just in denial about things. Was avoiding the trauma and the past decisions that like were not great decisions, and hadn't yet made some other poor decisions like quitting my job impromptu because it was good for my mental health, but not great for my financial health. So yeah, I think I'm in a different spot now. But the other thing that kind of comes up with imposter syndrome was it's always funny to me when like I'm talking to my friend about, you know, us being at weird spots in our life and trying to figure life out and blah 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 whatever. And it's always funny because, when we talk, I always think about the fact that it's like I'm in a field when I'm working that's like so much surrounded by things that are having to deal with mental health and like being a better version of yourself and like making changes and stuff. And I believe in all of that, but it's also like sometimes I'm like, does anyone actually have answers to any of these questions? Like we're all struggling with like addictions or obsessions or depression and anxiety and like all of this stuff. It's like, does anyone actually have real answers? Like I know people go to school for this, but I'm like, I know what these tools are and how to use them, but like I don't even want to use them. Like, how am I supposed to tell somebody else that they should be using XYZ tools and everything will be great and your life will be perfect? And it's like, that's not reality. So I think that's all stuff that I've like reframed to some extent versus, again, how I felt when I was first entering the field. So I think that all kind of helps alleviate a little bit of it. But it is always funny to me when I'm like, why do I feel like I need therapy? Like, I do still think I probably need some diagnoses that I can't do on my own, legally speaking. But I'm like, do I need therapy? Like, I know all of the tools, I know all the things that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just not doing it. I'm like, I'm still in that pre contemplation phase. I know it's not great. I know I should change this or that or whatever, but I don't feel the motivation to go do it. But that feeling honestly helped me empathize with some of my clients who were like, I don't want to stop doing whatever I'm doing that is getting me into trouble or is wreaking havoc on my life or keeping me just as involved or whatever. And it's like, man, I get it. Like, I completely understand that it is kind of a pain in the butt to change anything about our lives. And I'm saying this as someone who's, again, I don't think anybody's greatly adjusted to anything, but supposedly I'm fairly well adjusted, at least on a spectrum of things. So, like, if I'm struggling with the desire to change and to do different things with my life to make it better, of course, you guys are struggling with it because most of you are struggling with just day to day living situations and financial situations and all of that. So, like, it's hard to, I think I've talked about this on here before, but it's like hard to want to change or have that motivation and stuff to change when, like, you're really just dealing with being in survival mode on a regular basis. So, anyway, all of that to say, I have my interview. I feel a little less imposter syndrome now, but I still think that that was part of what was going wrong when I was there the first time. Like, I've always had empathy for people, but I feel like it's expanded greatly now that, like, I've been in a position where I'm like, oh, like, the realization that, like, nobody actually really knows what they're doing, or at least that's how it seems to me. Maybe when I'm like 70 or something, I'll feel like, maybe I finally figured this thing out. But currently, I'm like, I don't think anybody ever feels like they have it all together. We're all just trying our best out here. And that just, I think, helps me, as I said, empathize more with people who are struggling to make changes and don't really have motivation to change necessarily on their own. So then are being told, like, you have to change. And it's like, that's not super effective either, at least in my opinion. But again, these are some of the things that, like, we talked about in the interview that, like, maybe isn't where this agency sees themselves going. Like, maybe they disagree with that perspective. So if they do, maybe that will hurt my, chances of being reemployed with them. I don't think that's true. I think they do agree with what I'm saying, but maybe they'll surprise me and say, we don't feel that way about people or clients or whatever, and we're not willing to, take you on to have that sort of opinion in our agency, which, I mean, I guess is fair or their right to do or whatever. I hope that's not what they say, but I won't know until I hear back from them. Um, but I also this week heard back from the other county that I applied to as a probation officer that I haven't worked for before. I'd applied to a position that I saw they had open for the exact same role, just in a different jurisdiction. Um, and I believe they were trying to schedule an interview with me. Unfortunately, we ended up playing phone tag back and forth a couple of times today, but we didn't actually get a chance to chat about whatever it was they were wanting to talk to me about. But I would imagine that if they were going to call and tell me that I wasn't being considered for a candidate, they probably would have left a voicemail about that. Maybe not. Maybe they still have that as a possibility, but hoping that they're back and forth trying to reach me today um, means that they are trying to schedule me for an interview. So I might have a backup or a secondary choice or option, hopefully, if something doesn't go right with the county that I used to work for. But we'll see. I'm, again, just trying not to put all my eggs into one basket because I mean, I've been doing okay. My partner's been helping take over a little bit of financial burden in terms of, like, our monthly expenses for me. But I am at the point where if I don't start getting a paycheck, like, June is the last month that I can probably semi comfortably keep paying my expenses without having a paycheck. And when I say semi comfortably, I mean that means still pulling money out of my savings account and stuff to pay for bills. I certainly am not at the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm just, using surplus regular funds that I haven't saved up, like, or that didn't go into, like, any category or anything over the last couple of years. I have definitely depleted all of that at this point, and am now just operating off of savings exclusively. So starting to get to the point where my savings is dwindling as well, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, so hopefully that gives me a secondary employment opportunity. But aside from that stuff, the only other stuff that's really going on is it is peak grad season. We are in grad season now, and my partner's niece is graduating from high school, so we're going to be going to her graduation this weekend. So that'll be fun. Glad to get to go hang out with all them. Normally, when we go visit, they live close enough that we just, drive down for the day and then drive back that night. But her grad party is on Saturday and her graduation is on Sunday. So we are actually getting a hotel to stay in town for the night. I mean, it's like 3-4 hour drive or something like that. So I mean, in reality, we could drive back home and then drive back the next day, but it makes a lot more sense to just get a hotel for the night and hang out with everybody, and then we don't have to worry so much about like, oh, it's getting late, we can't stay and hang out with everybody, we can't like enjoy the weekend with his family and all that. So hopefully that all goes well. There's not supposed to be any severe weather this weekend, hopefully. That's the last I saw in the forecast, so I'm looking forward to that. Um, so hopefully we can make it there and back in one piece and not have to even worry about severe weather. I mean, it might rain or something, but as long as we're not dealing with tornado storms again, I am a-okay with that. But yeah, I'm running quickly out of time for today. I have some stuff about diamond painting that I was going to talk about in my last WIP&Chat and was going to talk about today, but I don't think I actually have time to ask you guys my questions. So I'll probably go ahead and just wrap it up here. But thank you all. I'm sorry that this is a little bit shorter, but thank you all for watching today's video. If you did make it to the end, if you'll leave an emoji in the comments related to graduation, I would love to see that, just to show that you made it to the end of this video. If you're looking for more content related to this chapter of my life, please check out my diamond painting playlists. They're going to be linked in the cards or around the description box if they're not popping up in the cards. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content about this chapter and others. And please leave any comments or questions you have down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.